Here in Dumas, where we're at, is a agricultural community. It's basically farming, very little industry, and it's a really small town. If you blink when you go through it, you might miss it. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. It's home and where we want to be.
We are 90 miles from Little Rock in southeastern Arkansas, where the Arkansas River, the White River, and the Mississippi River all come together. It is strictly a farming community. We have very few factories down here. I've always said that if you didn't have a business that was tied into farming, you just got by the best way you could. And that is basically what we did at our grocery store for as long as we could.
To make a living around here, you have to do what you can. So I had to do a lot of different things in my life to make a living.
I met Chuck at my job. I worked for his dentist. So I was 19, I guess, and he was about 22. And we were just two young kids who dated for a very short 3 months, and then we kind of went our separate ways. But about 3 years later, we started dating again. And when we started dating again, then it never stopped.
My parents were great people. They taught me the value of work, how to be honest, any kind and every kind of value in life. They taught me.
Chuck's mom and dad were very hard workers. They helped everybody in the community. His parents had 2 grocery stores, and then his mom had a boot store. But during the time in between, they were farming. Well, there was a bad year. So his mom said, well, we'll just build another store and we'll have another grocery store. Right before we got engaged, they opened up the 3rd store, and that's where we still are today. We're in the same building. In the 80s, whenever the grocery store first started, things were going good. We had a hunting store in the back. We sold guns, bows and arrows, ammunition, camouflage clothes, groceries, barbecue sandwiches. My mother-in-law smoked pork butts, and we had homemade barbecue sandwiches every day. It was a very popular thing. There were a lot of farmers out in the area that had quite a few people employed. So we made a lot of lunches for farmers. We started taking out shelves in the grocery store and putting in tables. So we started cooking shrimp po' boys, muffalettas, cheese dip, fish, we had hamburgers. And for a while, that was really good. Probably around 2008, 2009, even our lunch business dwindled because every time someone new opened up in our little town, well, that just took a piece of our pie, and it got smaller and smaller. So during this time, Chuck was cooking at duck lodges, and he would go out there and cook for 60 days at a time, and he started aging beef. He knew that this was what he wanted the steakhouse to open. And he had been working on it for probably a couple of years before it all came into play. We knew that our lunch business was not what it should be. And he started writing down recipes, things that he wanted to prepare and things that he wanted to do at our restaurant. And he saw the need to draw up a plan and get started on it. Well, he had to convince our banker about that.
The day I went to the bank to borrow the money for the restaurant, the response I got was, he scratched his head and said, "Oh boy, you wanting to do what?" He kind of hee-hawed around there, and then I told him, I said, "Well, listen, what I've got on paper I think will work." And I said, "If you don't loan me the money to do it, you're going to be owning a grocery store. Do you want to own a grocery store?" "No." "Okay then." I got my loan then.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't scary. It was scary for Chuck too, but he never wavered. It was definitely a leap of faith. Well, we opened up the steakhouse in October of 2012. And Chuck and I had mortgaged a lot of stuff. We had made a lot of decisions. We had to figure out a way how we were going to have some income for 2-3 months before we could get up and get on our feet.
Got to have an exceptional product. And the only way you're going to get an exceptional product is use exceptional meat, which is prime. We only serve prime. And, I told Pam before we done this, I said, listen, we can't have just a steakhouse. We're going to have people drive here from everywhere. I said, people aren't going to drive here from everywhere if you just serve a marginal cut of meat. I got to have something to draw people here.
After we opened up in October, people in our area were not used to what prime beef was. And that Christmas was probably one of the saddest Christmas I've ever had, because I thought we had made the worst mistake of our life. Nobody was coming out. People were not supporting us. People were talking about us behind our back, that we were so high, that we would never make it. And I was pretty much devastated. But once again, Chuck is always positive, and he says, we can't quit. We've got to keep going. We've got to keep going. It's going to turn around. We're going to have to draw from all over the state and just everywhere. A girl from Pine Bluff's parents came here to eat. And she works for the Channel 7 in Little Rock, the TV station. And she invited Chuck and our daughter to come up on a Saturday morning to do a show that was aired on the TV station. That got the ball rolling. That was kind of a turning point, that people were finally beginning to hear about us all over the state. That kind of gave us a breaking point. And it just kind of slowly started rolling.
It kept getting better the whole time. But, to really say, well, we've turned the corner and we're an institution, just a couple of 3 years ago. I kept hearing her name on the radio when people would call in, when they'd say, well, what do you think the best steakhouse is in Arkansas? Taylor Steakhouse? And then they would talk about us all the time on that radio station. You see the limos and the party buses, people from everywhere. Some guys come in, and they were dressed up. One guy had and I wouldn't know a Gucci suit from a smoochy suit, but a girl in the kitchen said, that's a Gucci suit. Well, come to find out, some people come in and said, did y'all know y'all had 3 Lamborghinis parked out in front of your restaurant? I said, no, we didn't, but it was those guys. They had driven in from Little Rock in 3 Lamborghinis.
When I see all my reservations and all my customers from all over, not just at home, it makes me very proud for all the struggle that we've been through. It makes me very proud, makes me happy. I'm just thankful for all the customers, the friendships that we've built. It just makes all the difference when you go to the table to check on them and say, how is everything? It's wonderful. It's the best steak I've ever had. It just fills me with pride. We draw from a big area. We draw from people from Little Rock, Pine Bluff, Sheridan, Monticello, Star City, McGee. We have customers from Louisiana. We're pretty close to the Louisiana line. We have customers from Mississippi, Tennessee. I have some people flying in from West Memphis. And I know who they are. That's the part that gets me now. I have a friend that comes out to eat and she'll say, who are all these people? I don't know any of them. And I'll say, well, they're my regular customers.
Well, I use a broiler. They call it a hotel broiler. It's an infrared broiler, and at the source where the heat comes from, it's like 1800 degrees, and down where the steaks are, it's actually hitting the steaks about 1000 degrees. So like a medium rare steak, it only takes me about 8 minutes to cook it, and it comes out with a good crust on it. I use kosher salt, cracked black pepper is all I use. Then once the steaks come up, then they're rolled in that compound butter. That kosher salt helps develop that crust that I get. I don't know, that's the way it's supposed to be. I've been developing that recipe for years. I only finished it like a month or two before we opened. It's just a compound butter, and I don't dare tell what's in it. Matter of fact, the ingredients are in a safe. I keep the ingredients in a safe. Everybody wants to know what's in it, but I don't tell them. My wife and I know what's in it. Nobody else. That sets our steaks apart. I really want to be humble another way. Sometimes I'm not too humble because I think my steak's the best steak I ever eat. I would love to eat at some of the finer steakhouses just to see how theirs compare to mine. I have people tell me that's eat at those Peter Luger's and some of your other Morton's and some of your finer steakhouses that we're comparable, if not better, in some cases. Because I'm sure not going to say I got the best steak in the world, but I'm just proud that people think it's comparable to some of those places. That's big for a little steakhouse out in the middle of nowhere to even be talked about in the same sentence as Peter Luger. That's great. I don't ever give up. Anything I've ever done, I've never gave up. Sometimes you want to, but you got to keep telling yourself, just keep going. Dream come true to be inducted into the Steakhouse Hall of Fame. Never thought it would happen. My banker told me the other day, y'all got it whooped now. Y'all got it whooped.